20 years ago, the average American could save about 10% of their income without really thinking about it. Today, nearly 70% of people say they're living paycheck to paycheck, including people making six figures. If you feel like you can't save money no matter how hard you try, you're not imagining it. Something has fundamentally changed in how money works for normal people. This isn't about your discipline. It's not about skipping lattes or canceling streaming services. Those tips assume the problem is your behavior. But what if the problem is bigger than that? Today, we're going to look at why saving money has become genuinely harder than it used to be. Not to make you feel hopeless, but to help you understand what you're actually up against. Because once you see the real problem, you can make better decisions with what you actually have. Let's start with a simple comparison. In 1980, the median home price in America was about 3 times the median household income. That means if you made $20,000 a year, a typical house cost around $60,000. Tight, but possible. Today, that same house costs about 8 times the median income. If you make $60,000, you're looking at homes that cost nearly $500,000 in many areas. The ratio has more than doubled. But it's not just housing. College tuition has increased about 750% since 1980, while wages have only increased about 300%. Healthcare costs have tripled relative to income. Childcare now costs more than rent in many cities. Meanwhile, wages have stayed relatively flat when you adjust for inflation. The number on your paycheck might be higher than your parents' was, but what that money can actually buy has stayed about the same, or gone down. So when older generations say, just save more, they're not being mean. They genuinely lived in a time when the math was different. There's another layer to this. Our parents and grandparents didn't have certain expenses that are basically required now. Internet and phone service? Not optional anymore. You need them to apply for jobs, access banking, communicate with schools and doctors. That's $100 to $200 a month that didn't exist as a mandatory expense 40 years ago. A reliable computer or tablet, necessary for kids' homework, job applications, managing your finances, another few $100s every few years. Transportation has changed too. Many cities have let public transit deteriorate, so a car has gone from optional to mandatory in more places. And cars themselves have gotten more expensive. The average new car now costs over $48,000, nearly as much as the median household income. Even staying healthy costs more in invisible ways. Preventive care, dental work, glasses, mental health support. These aren't luxuries, but they're not always covered, and they add up. These aren't frivolous expenses. They're what it costs to participate in modern life. But they squeeze the space where savings used to happen. Here's something people don't talk about enough. When saving feels impossible, it changes how you think about money. If you've been trying to save $20 here, $50 there, and then one car repair or medical bill wipes it all out, eventually your brain starts asking, what's the point? This isn't being irresponsible. This is a completely rational response to a system that feels rigged. When the gap between your savings and what you'd need for real security, a down payment, an emergency fund, retirement, feels impossibly wide, motivation breaks down. Some people respond by giving up on saving entirely and just trying to enjoy the present. Others feel constant guilt and anxiety, trapped between what they're told they should do and what feels actually possible. Neither response is wrong. They're both ways of coping with a genuine structural problem. So what happened? Why did the math break? It's not one thing. It's several forces that all happened at once. First, starting in the 1970s and accelerating in the 80s and 90s, we shifted how we think about the economy. More things that used to be public goods, affordable education, healthcare, housing, became private markets. The idea was that competition would make things cheaper and better. For some things that worked. TVs and computers got better and cheaper. But for things you can't avoid, housing, healthcare, education, it mostly just made them more expensive. You can choose not to buy a TV. You can't choose not to get medical care when you're sick. Second, wages stopped keeping pace with productivity. Workers produce more value than ever, but that value increasingly goes to profits and shareholders rather than paychecks. From the 1940s to the 1970s, when the economy grew, wages grew at the same rate. After 1980, that link broke. Third, the social safety net got thinner. Pensions disappeared and were replaced with 401ks, shifting the risk from employers to workers. Fewer jobs offer affordable health insurance. Unemployment benefits cover less and expire faster. All of this means normal people are carrying more risk, more costs, and more responsibility with roughly the same paycheck. Okay, so what do you do with this information? First, stop blaming yourself. If saving feels hard right now, it's not because you're bad with money. The system has changed. Understanding that doesn't fix your bank account, but it does lift some of the shame and guilt. And that matters because shame makes it harder to think clearly. Second, redefine what success looks like. The old advice assumes you can save 10 to 20% of your income. For many people, that's not realistic right now. Saving $25 a month is still saving. Building a $500 emergency fund is real progress, even though the internet will tell you that you need 6 months of expenses. Work with your actual reality, not someone else's ideal. Third, focus on reducing your biggest fixed costs if you can. Small cuts, like skipping coffee, save small amounts. Big cuts, like housing, transportation, or subscriptions you forgot about, free up real money. This doesn't mean you need to move or sell your car tomorrow, but when those decisions come up naturally, a lease ending, a job change, that's when to think strategically. Fourth, look for solidarity, not competition. The narrative around money often makes it feel like a personal test you're failing, but this is a collective problem. When you talk honestly with friends, family, or online communities about money struggles, you often find you're not alone. And sometimes you find practical strategies that actually help. And finally, pay attention to policy. This isn't a political statement, it's a practical one. The rules that determine wages, housing costs, healthcare access, and education affordability are set by policy decisions. Those decisions affect your life more than your budget spreadsheet does. You don't have to become an activist, but staying informed and voting in local elections, where housing and transit decisions get made, is part of taking care of your financial future. Saving money feels impossible right now because for many people, it genuinely is harder than it used to be. Costs have increased faster than wages, new mandatory expenses have appeared, and the safety net has gotten thinner. This isn't about personal failure, it's about a structural shift in how the economy works. You can't fix that by yourself, but you can stop carrying guilt that doesn't belong to you, adjust your expectations to match reality, and make the best decisions you can with what you actually have. That's not giving up, that's being honest. If this helped you see your situation more clearly, consider subscribing. We make simple, honest videos about money for normal people. No hype, no judgment.